The New York Stock Exchange, established in 1792, is the largest stock market in the world by market capitalization. Located at 11 Wall Street in New York City, the New York Stock Exchange has been a cornerstone of global finance for over 2 centuries, playing a crucial role in the growth of the US economy and the global financial system. An initial public offering, or an IPO, is a legal way for companies to make available the ability for investors, both institutional and retail, to invest in their company, to actually buy shares. And if you're a retail investor like I am, for example, you'll be buying shares in these companies, or ETFs, for example, and those will be going into your pension fund, or they'll be going into your general investment account, so you can actually build wealth for the future. Now, when it comes to the New York Stock Exchange here, it is a bit of a unicorn, and it is preferred by a lot of companies who want to take that step of having an IPO as the place to be, even more so than the London Stock Exchange. And that is something that we're trying to actively work towards at this point in time, because we've missed out on some pretty big IPOs over the past 5 or 6 years. But there is a reason. There are actually 3 reasons why people prefer to come here when they IPO. Well, the first is the fact that prestige. You know, this is the New York Stock Exchange. It is the global financial capital of the world. You've got visibility. Just being listed here means that there are so many people that will recognize that you're listed on the New York Stock Exchange, and that brings investor capital. And that's probably one of the biggest attractions that you could possibly think of if you're a new company trying to IPO at any point now or either in the future. I mean, just as an example, one of the biggest IPOs that they've had in more recent history is Alibaba. Now, you may have that stock in your portfolio, you may hold the stock individually, but that happened, and that was in 2014 on September 19th, and they raised $25 billion. It was the biggest IPO that they've actually had currently. Now, as of 2022, and this is the end of 2022, there are 2,873 companies listed on the stock exchange here in New York, and that puts the value of the New York Stock Exchange at $30 trillion. Now, $30 trillion is obviously quite a lot of money. And when you think about the New York Stock Exchange being valued at that much money, it is a testament to what the Americans have been able to do over the past 100 years in cementing themselves being the world leaders when it comes to the global economy, and certainly when it comes to financial markets. And if you're watching this video right now, you may be either a first-time investor, maybe a little bit inexperienced, you may be looking to invest for the first time. The likelihood is that you're going to be investing in companies that are listed on the New York Stock Exchange. And that's an important thing to note as you're starting off on your journey, so you know what you're buying and where you're buying it from. But what I want to do now is talk a little bit about what are the things that you can actually purchase on the New York Stock Exchange, because there's quite a choice. The first thing is you're going to be able to buy stocks, and these are individual companies. So if you think of the likes of Amazon, Alibaba, Nvidia's been in the news quite a bit lately because it's going absolutely crazy. You can buy individual companies, individual stocks. Now, it is worthwhile noting that obviously when you buy individual stocks, you've got to be very, very careful around what you're buying, how you're buying it, and how you actually weight it, because you do have the possible risk of being overexposed to certain sectors. I've done a completely different video on that. I'll pop it up on the screen so you can go and view that separately. But these companies will be companies that have IPO'd either specifically on the New York Stock Exchange, and effectively there will be income generating businesses. Some of them will be paying dividends, which is a really big thumbs up as a first time investor or someone who's just starting out on this journey. There'll be strong companies that you're going to know, household names. What you're also going to be able to buy on the New York Stock Exchange are exchange traded funds, or ETFs. You would have heard of them. Now, ETFs are a great vehicle to be able to buy a batch of companies in a basket. So unlike individual stocks where you're potentially picking the companies that you want, building your own portfolio, what you're doing with an ETF is you're buying a whole group of them. Now, a popular ETF that you may have heard of is the S&P 500 that has 508 of the world's largest companies in that ETF that if you buy, you are invested in, you own shares in. So ETFs are absolutely fantastic. It's how I invest. I use a core satellite approach where I own majority ETFs with some individual stocks around it.
Now, the truth is you can buy more than just individual stocks and ETFs on the New York Stock Exchange. I've covered those two specifically because those are the two that you have more than likely come across in your journey thus far. Now, before we conclude this video, I want to give you 5 tips that I believe will help you put your best foot forward and help you build confidence as an investor. And the first one goes without saying, you have to open an investment account. Now, there are lots of providers and platforms out there in 2024 that can help you do this. I will link you to a handful down below in the descriptions, but let me talk you through one that I'm actively using right now, and that provider is Vanguard. Now, Vanguard have been around since 1975. They are one of the largest fund managers in the world, but they are known for really keeping the cost to invest down, which is important because as an investor, it means that you get to keep more of your hard-earned cash and, more importantly, more of your investment returns, and that cannot be understated when you are investing. Tip number 2 is to understand currency exchange rates. You are going to be investing in the US, which means that you're going to be buying in the US dollar, and in the process of investing there will be a conversion between the British pound and the USD. So it's important to note that currency fluctuations can affect your returns when you convert your profits back into British pounds or even decide to sell your position. Tip number 3, which is also very important, you have to make sure that you research US tax implications. There are US tax laws that you have to abide to as an investor, and a prime example of one is the dividend withholding tax, which means that if you are invested in companies in the United States where they pay dividends, you will automatically pay the dividend withholding tax. Now, whilst you can't fully mitigate the dividend withholding tax, you can reduce how much you pay in dividend withholding tax by filling in something called a W-8 Ben form. Most providers will nudge you in the right direction to fill one out, so make sure that you remember to do so. Tip number 4, diversify your portfolio. This is all about not putting all of your eggs in one basket and managing your risk. Diversification can help protect your portfolio against volatility in any single market. Last but not least, stay informed. Understanding the economic indicators, the factors that could impact your investment portfolio like interest rates and inflation, is key. So regularly reading financial news, following market analysis and considering those indicators can help you make better investment decisions. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please remember to smash the like button. If you've not already subscribed, consider subscribing.